All right, let's. This was really funny. Kyle Kalinske, who you may know, is a. Is he BreadTube? Are we BreadTube?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
Friend of show.
But friend of show, Kyle Kalinske.
Secular Talk
was on Joe Rogan again, right? This is his second.
I think it might be his third time.
Oh my God, that guy's on there all the time. And Kyle Kalinske was on the Joe Rogan show. Now, this is interesting because in the past, we've heard Joe Rogan say that Dave Rubin, I don't think he came out and said Dave Rubin is dim, but I think he did say something to the effect of like, there's a lot of times Dave Rubin's in over his head.
I think the phrase he used was cognitively limited.
That's right.
We didn't know exactly if he was talking about Dave Rubin, just to be clear. I mean, one could.
But wasn't that in the context of that conversation where
I think it was before his
Brett
name.
Weinstein said?
I think Weinstein made it about Rubin. If I remember, I think Rogan was doing the like, hey, hypothetically, what if there's this wounded antelope guy who has no idea what he's talking about?
I think
whatever. It doesn't
whatever the sequencing was.
He was talking about Dave.
But we don't know. But there's
talking about Sam Harris.
There's a thing called subtweeting. Where you're talking about somebody on a tweet or you're writing about it and you don't say their name specifically. I think it actually started out when you didn't at them and then it sort of like grew into just talking about it. Now, I don't know who Joe Rogan could be talking about in this clip. Let's play the Joe Rogan clip first because he's talking about they're talking about the way that people label themselves.
Northern Saudi Arabia this week, authorities knew they had another case of witchcraft on their hands, a capital offense in the ultra-conservative Desert Kingdom. Is that really what it is? Is that conservative? That term, that term is like way too wide.
Pause it. It is. It is conservative. I don't know that I would call it necessarily. I would say it's politically conservative. I mean, let's be honest. The conservative movement in this country right now, you could look at Charlie Kirk got yelled at the other day by some conservative Christians who that's what they do. They have problems with things like homosexuality. They have things that are pagan. They have problems with. It is.
They hate Halloween.
It is conservative. Now, you might want to say like religiously conservative. You want to get specific, but I quibble, and that's not relevant.
I think both are. I think the idea like liberal, conservative, it casts such a wide net because
and then people like to get sneaky and use. No, I'm a classic liberal.
Yeah, because
what is that? What is that?
Exactly.
You're a fucking Republican.
And it's funny because there's actually, when you actually look at the textbook definition of a lot of these terms, they have multiple meanings.
Yes.
So classical
pause
liberal.
It for 1 second. I'm just trying to think, where have I heard this term classic Republic? Keep that where it is, but let's where have I heard that term classical liberal before? I'm trying to think. It's on the tip of my tongue.
What is a classical liberal? It sounds like someone who's a liberal, but perhaps a bit fancier, maybe sporting a top hat, a twirly mustache, and a monocle. Tea time! While that might be true in some specific cases, there's a lot more to it than that, and I bet I can convince you that there's a little classical liberal in you too in about 2 minutes. Me? Classical liberalism.
All right, pause it. That is, of course, Dave Rubin. In fact, that is Dave Rubin's. I don't know. It is his. What would you call that? There's got to be some type of literary term for his essence, expressing
Manifesto.
his essence. Manifesto. Yeah. Yes.
Core brand.
A declaration of Dave Rubinhood. All right. Well, let's go back to Joe Rogan. Now that we know who Joe Rogan could be talking about. I mean, can you name another person who identifies themselves as classical liberal?
No, if I wanted to find others, I'd probably go to Dave Rubin's show and see who he interviewed.
Now, how many of those people who identify as a classical liberal have been on Joe Rogan's show that Joe Rogan comes in contact with? I mean, we're talking about a subset of people that is one. It's Dave Rubin. He's got to be talking about Dave Rubin, right? But maybe we'll hear him say Dave Rubin's name. Let's see.
I think both are. I think the idea like liberal, conservative, it casts such a wide net because
and then people like to get sneaky and use. No, I'm a classic liberal.
Yeah, because
what is that? What is that?
Exactly.
You're a fucking Republican.
And it's funny because there's actually, when you actually look at the textbook definition of a lot of these terms, they have multiple meanings.
Yes.
So classical liberal, in some instances means just like libertarian, because
Yes.
that's what it used to mean back in the day. But in today's day and age, like you said, it could mean you're kind of right-leaning.
Yeah, it's more right of center.
Right.
They call it classical liberal is a very it's a misleading term. Well, if
No.
like classic.
Wait a second. So there's a cut there. Will you go back? I didn't notice that before.
Kind of right-leaning.
Yeah, it's more right of center.
Right.
They call it classical liberal is a very it's a misleading term. If like classical liberal is it's a British term, correct?
Well,
Isn't it?
I think it originally dates back to, it was a way
wait,
of
here,
describing
that's weird. Okay,
libertarianism.
so there's a cut there. I wonder if he goes on and actually names Dave Rubin. Only Kyle would know. I mean, I'm assuming it was the Rogan people. Maybe Rogan went too far in naming Rubin, and then later felt like I shouldn't name Dave Rubin. But we gotta find
Why?
out from Kyle. I don't know.
Like, what does Joe Rogan have to fear from Dave Rubin?
I don't know that he has
I
anything
think
to fear,
he
but
would
he
just
also
feel bad.
Yeah, you may
Just
feel bad.
Yeah,
He's
he
a
was
wounded
talking about
antelope.
bullying the cognitively limited.
He's
so.
a
That's right.
wounded antelope.
But we
He's
shall
nicer
see.
than us.
The Blazes, Dave Rubin lives in his own.
I'm a classical liberal.
Liberal universe. All right. Well, we
Probably have a little bit in you too.
but we should ask Kyle about that, or maybe Kyle will do a video and talk about that cut.
Yeah, follow him up.
Do they cut often in Joe Rogan's show? My sense is they don't do that.
I don't watch enough to know.
I don't know.
No, I watched like most of the Barry Weiss one to punish myself, and there were not a lot of cuts.
Were there any cuts?
I don't remember.
I mean, doesn't he do it live? I don't know. All right, let's take